Yeah, it was pretty much flat, actually, when it was all said and done. You have that big seller who's been showing up when they lock it in quarter two. So he's been popping up late. That's been for a good week at least. Yeah, it should update in about 20 minutes or so, P. Actually, maybe by 5 o'clock. Good question, Max. All I know is I'm not a big VIX guy, but I can tell you that quite a few people who know a lot more than I do or are familiar trading it a lot more than I have are already looking to short it by puts. But I'm not a big VIX guy. I'm being honest. I don't really follow it enough. Lulu down too, a little bit. Ah, see, too much information can kill you too, though. AQB, yeah, drug stock. Wow, tree. Really nice day today in that thing. Did you? Maybe you get another chance to buy it again, right? Nice job. Nice job. Work down off earnings? Yeah. I mean, not too surprising. I know it's been a laggard, but right now tech is heavy. But they may find buyers tomorrow, may find buyers. All right, let's get rolling before I start running my mouth and hold on. All right, just to get everybody caught up on, I mean, everybody knows by now what's been taking place, right? It's basically every single thing that we've been oohing and ahhing about um, for what feels like months, right? These NASDAQ names, Tesla, Apple, retail players just piling into these names, you name it. Listen, there was a lot, as much as we're going to talk about the downside and how weak these are over the last couple of days, there was a lot of money made in these things. A lot of money. Now, if you overstayed your welcome or you got caught, right? You bought a little too late and you got greedy, you're taking it on the chin here and then some. All right. But there's been a lot of money and a lot of money on the retail end that has been made in these names: Tesla, Apple, a lot of these software names, the FANG names. Okay. But that aside, like we had this discussion with members yesterday. Okay. What we're seeing now was the primary risk, or the main risk behind everything out there, was what we're seeing taking place right now. So in other words, in simple English, right? We talked about this yesterday. I'm sorry if it sounds repetitive. We got obviously new people on today, but anytime you guys would ask me to look at a name, right? So I bring up, I don't know, any name that looked good. Let's say Twilio, okay? And we would look at it and say, oh, you know what? It's been consolidating, looks good, but you still have that one risk, that main risk that covers everything in tech, okay? No matter if it's been a laggard in tech of recent, no matter if it's been consolidating the last few days, no matter if there's a bull flag there, no matter what technical pattern you've been looking at, if it falls into that NASDAQ tech category, okay, the risk, your main risk, was that you would get caught in this, okay? And this is this washout, punch in the jaw we've been referring to for a long time, right? I mean, again, we spoke about this yesterday. Me personally, right? And think about it. It's, weeks go by in this game. It's, a long time, but I was afraid of this. I was worried about this in regards to swing trading at the start of earnings season. That's a few weeks back now. And now in hindsight, I had some time to try to milk a little bit more out of swing trades because some of the bigger moves came over the next couple of weeks. Okay. The longer it continued to go higher, right? We spoke about the more violent the punch in the jaw is going to be when it comes. Okay. And that's what I'm kind of a little bit concerned about here. Okay. Is that everything looks like your run-of-the-mill washout in where things got too hot and riffraff involved, retail traders, the whole 9 yards, right? But when you get an overshoot to the upside, all right, when you start to see signs of that and you don't see selling or consolidation over the next couple days or weeks, and a market continues to melt up through that, what happens is when you do get that wash, there's more pain involved. And it's not going to feel pleasant. And I still think, I don't think right now that there's enough pain in some of these things. And I'm talking about the NASDAQ names yet. For us to say, okay, there's enough damage out there and we should start looking for swing opportunities again, positions again, okay, in tech. All right. Even if we see the lows tomorrow, I think the volatility out there, the swings, and the violent nature of things, I still think has a way to go to instill fear. People still who are getting burned in this are still have that, this is a normal correction, buy the dip mentality. And the market usually knocks that out of their head. Okay. But, we got to look at things as a whole now. Looking around today in the market, especially early on today, there were things out there that look solid, right? Look solid. I mean, you had Disney strong today. As a matter of fact, my screen, and maybe because I'm not a big player, right? I don't really play these things as much as some of you guys do. But when my watch list, my screen of stocks was fairly mixed today, fairly mixed and with some big winners. So it goes to show you that this is not a whole market event. But I will say this, okay? There are times where, and this would definitely fit the bill, where you have so much exposure into this group that it affects the overall market and can weigh on the other names. Okay, and we started to see that in the afternoon when tech had another, round of selling. It started to weigh on some of the names that were strong. All right, so, we want to be smart. We want to be really smart about things here. Okay, especially if you've been taking a tactical approach, you've been cautious, as far as positions are concerned, waiting for this. You don't want to ruin this opportunity if you've been waiting for it. And what I mean by that, we really don't need to jump out of our shoes and get FOMO ourselves into this dip. Okay, we want to allow things to play out and let it come to us in a sense. All right, and the way I like to do that is a couple things, right? Like initially when we're just in this a couple days, okay? The way I like to look at things when we first enter a phase like this is, one, I want to pay attention to all the action, okay? Especially some of the good-looking action with time, even though I may not be pulling the trigger there, okay? Because I want to pay attention because those may be the names if they continue to hit them, then I do end up pulling the trigger in at some point. Okay, even though it's not right now. So it's sort of, you're building a hit list, a watch list in a sense, okay, off the top action. And the other thing I like to do that not only keeps me entertained because I'm a degenerate and need action, okay, I like to play for those sentiment squeezes that could be quite profitable, right? Sometimes when the selling is too strong, like we see, we saw in some corrections in the past, those short-term sentiment signals can get run over, no doubt. Okay, but for the most part, when it's all said and done, those short-term sentiment signals, there's a lot more winners that come out of it than losers, and it's a good way to stay involved, right? And allows you to pay attention to everything that's going on around you. All right, so let's talk about the sentiment play right now, okay? Going into tomorrow, you get a flat to red open, right? Anything but a massive gap up, to tell you the truth. And you are looking for sweepers to force you to buy something, okay? The safest thing to do, right, the most conservative thing to do would be just a clean play on SPY, right? You get a snapback rally, whenever it is, maybe tomorrow, maybe 2 days later, maybe the following day, and there's a good chance you'll cash your ticket off a snapback rally in SPY, right? You can get a little more creative, right? A little more creative meaning you can go and dabble in the Qs, or even, TQQQ, or, high beta names, the names that are getting beaten to hell right now. But you got to understand, you're also taking a little more risk by, going outside of SPY at that point. Okay. Because why? Because, if you go and buy Tesla, maybe there's not that big of a bounce in Tesla. Maybe there's, the selling is so heavy, maybe the Tesla doesn't rebound as much as the overall market when it squeezes, right? There's always that risk. But, as long as you're aware of those risks, it doesn't even matter, because there's a lot of luck involved. But if you wanted to take a conservative approach, right, you play a general ETF or, something related to that, and you're looking for a snapback. All right. And what I mean by a snapback is basically this. And this is the logic to it, right? So let's say tomorrow we open up, we close here, right? We open up right around here, okay? You're looking now, and this is how I do it, I'm looking for signs out of the flow to signal they're playing a squeeze. Okay, we saw actually little bits and pieces out of it today, okay? But tomorrow, officially, you're going to be coming off a bullish sentiment signal, all right? So you see SPY calls, Octobers, right? Or Novembers, or whatever the case may be. That's something you would be interested in, okay? And even if there is further weakness, because sentiment is at an extreme bearish point, okay, the probability is that your entry here, when the squeeze, the snapback rally comes, is gonna get you in the green, okay? If you happen to get lucky and it's a perfect entry, you're gonna cash a really nice ticket. If you're a little early, right, you're gonna be underwater for a bit, but you still should cash a decent ticket, right? Sometimes I'm extremely early and the snapback rally comes and, I have a lot less of a profit than I was hoping for. But that's all, there's nothing really you can do about that as far as the exact timing, right? It's almost impossible. There's a lot of luck involved, right? Sometimes you could have impeccable timing. Sometimes your timing is going to be off a bit. Sometimes you're going to be a little too early, and you hardly make any money. It ends up being a scratch trade or whatever the case may be. All right, but you don't want to focus too much on that, because when you get too picky and you get too cute, you miss the snapback rally altogether. And then you're complaining and talking to yourself that you didn't pull the trigger at all. All right. So that's the snapback play off sentiment that we talk about. All right. And the logic is that even, I don't care how bearish you are. Okay. The logic is that even if this market, right, has lower to go, and we've seen it time and time again, right? What usually happens? You have this, then you have a little relief, right, with a bounce, and then there's another leg lower, right? A lot of times that's usually the case. And, you know, it's no coincidence that that low point usually lines up when people are positioned, traders, I should say, because it's short-term sentiment. Traders are positioned for more downside or have been making money on, you know, on the downside and are getting greedy. And then they get squeezed. All right. We kind of had, it's been a little confusing. I don't know for you guys, it's been a little confusing to me because we had Monday, we were closed, but the futures were open, right? And Monday, didn't we rally Monday? Like, where's Monday on this chart? You know what I mean? Like, I can't even, we rallied Monday. Where is that on this chart? So it carries into last night, Kevin, basically. So this is it here. It carried into last night and it shows up in just this one bar as a whole. You know, because it's kind of confusing for me. Yeah, I don't know. But that's what threw me a little off whack. But anyway, technically tomorrow is the day. Again, anything outside of massive gap up, you don't want to chase a massive gap up. All right. Anything remotely close to where we closed today, more weakness the better. You want to look for some entries. I have, and we talk about this a lot in the room over the years. I have a bunch of guys that I've traded around that they jump. I call it jump the shark, which doesn't make any sense, but jump the signal completely, right? So what I kind of did today with SE, I bought a little of those SE calls today. All right. I know a bunch of guys that off this, they already know there's going to be a bullish sentiment signal, right? The squeezometer has got a 3 handle. So what they do is they buy today before the close. And then if there's any weakness, they'll look to add some to that position. Why do they do that? Because you know how many times, I can't even tell you how many times, we've seen this type of setup exactly like we have right here today, and then we gap up tomorrow and go huge. It looks far-fetched right now, right? It wouldn't shock me one bit. It wouldn't shock me one bit. It's happened so many times. Yeah, in this market, nothing should shock us, you know? So the only way to combat that is you buy something, you buy a little into this weakness near the bell. And then, you know, if you get that added weakness or flat open the next day, you look to add something, you know? All right. And people say, you know, they come back with, well, what happens if, what happens if this is one of these crashes? Then you lost money, more than likely. You know what I mean? You had a loser, just like you would when you were buying up here into the highs. Just you had a higher probability of being involved in the squeeze. You know, but the numbers are with you when you're playing for a snapback sentiment squeeze. Why? Because where you get burned are crashes. That's where you get burned. Okay, where those short-term signals usually get run over and there's no squeeze that bails you out, are usually crashes. And, you know, those are far and few. So you already should know your risk on every trade you touch, right? But the numbers are against you, right? There's a lot more just your run-of-the-mill corrections than there are crashes. All right, so that's the logic behind the whole trade, all right? That's the logic behind the whole trade. 921 with the, yeah, and that's the way to do, right? And that's the beauty of options, guys. That's the beauty of options, right? Like somebody mentioned, you get stopped out and that's it, on to the next trade. And he's 100% right. But the beauty of options, you can put in what you're willing to risk and not stress it. You know what I mean? You could put in what you're willing to risk and not even stress it. So tomorrow, you see some SPY sweepers coming into October's, right? You're looking to play a snapback trade, put in what your stop loss would be. You only had intention of losing 10 grand, you're putting 10 grand into those calls. All right, whatever number, 5 grand, 5 grand into those calls. 2 grand, 2 grand into those calls. All right. And the thing is you're not looking to break the market off that trade. Okay. It's not where all signals are screaming bottom and you start buying things with 2 hands. It's a tactical sentiment signal, right? For a trade. And what that allows us to do, okay, it allows us to try to make some money in a volatile period where things can get a little dicey while we wait for this to resolve and set up. All right, and the beauty of it is if something of a sweet spot does set up out of this, all right, you're trading these tactical sentiment signals to make some money in the interim, but your eyes are on the market. You're not getting destroyed, lit up, doing some other shit out there, right? You're not getting turned off by the market that like a lot of people do when we get into these corrective phases. And you're paying attention for that stronger setup when it does show up. Because it will show up. It will show up. It's a matter of when and in what. It will show up. All right, so that's the point to it all. On that note, I have here, Goldman actually shared it with us this go around. All right, here's how we're looking. Same old story here, right? This is pretty much where our concern has been as far as risk, short term. So these are Goldman sentiment indicators that we look at, right? Every Tuesday for the most part. The short-term indicators, momentum stuff, has been pretty hot every time the market has rallied to new highs. Okay, but as you get down here, the positioning stuff is telling a different story. All right, so what that tells me is, can this sell-off be a little harsher than we thought initially? Yeah, it could be. But what's going to happen if it is? We're going to have a real nice setup when it's all said and done. You know what I mean? Because we're not too far away. Okay, it would be a lot worse if all these things were pinned on this side here. And then, all right, we got quite the work to do before we can get that sweet spot set up. All right, and this is another Goldman risk appetite indicator they got here, and this too tells you a lot. Here's the momentum. The light blue is momentum, so that's kind of all the stuff that's really getting hit hard now, right? But risk appetite as a whole, below neutral, where, you know, this is usually where big pain follows, lengthy pain. These update every week. Oh, you're saying it hasn't updated for the weakness? Usually you'll probably see it barring a huge market rally next week, Jordan. A lot of them we follow in real time, but this updates every week. All right. So again, what it tells us is that all this stuff, right? The Pink Panther we saw all over the place. We call it the Pink Panther, and all these names just get washed out. Like, look at the Pink Panther in NASDAQ, right? What was another? There was another one, Pink Panther, who wiped it all out. But it's all a SPY had Pink Panther from these things. Look at this. See? This is what I mean by Pink Panther. It just wiped it all out. Wiped it all out. So you got key levels here. I'm not a big level guy, but usually when you get these washes, the 50-day usually finds a spot here, right? I'm sure the SPY 50-day is right around here. Anybody have any numbers on the 50-day? That's usually where it finds some support initially for that snapback squeeze. Sometimes give or take. We should be approaching that. 32.19, is that the 50-day? HeartNet from Bova, who's as good as they get, it's around 331 the 50-day. Yeah. That sounds pretty good. You know, a little more weakness. It might, you know, it should get there. Maybe tomorrow, should get there. But HeartNet was talking about 3,300 SPX. You look to do buying around. And then he was talking about 11,000 on the NASDAQ, which I was a little surprised by because we're under that now, right? Yeah, that's right there. Like, the NASDAQ to me can overshoot because it's just how crowded that damn, you know, these damn names were. You know, any buying guys that came into this market throughout this rally, right? We talked about non-believer money, all the people who didn't believe in the rally and were forced to buy. They all bought tech. You know what I mean? It's all in tech. And what I'm really keeping a close eye on is, you know, do they get aggressive in size in tech with time, or do they start looking at these at all the other spots that they still look good? And that's, to me, that's the most interesting thing now to keep an eye on. So far, okay, and it's early, but so far, what do we see? They're hammering PayPal with time. They're hammering these names. They're not going anywhere else. They're buying these. You know, where some of the shorter term flow was in some of these rotation names. But you got Caterpillar green today. Disney was green today. You know, these things have looked okay for a while. They just haven't had much sizzle behind them. On that note, let's look at this here. Let's look at some names today, because there was buying today. Here's the buying today. I like this name. I feel it a little too early, but you might get a bounce if we get the sentiment squeeze anyway. Mtch. You got sharp players in this name. They've sold puts. They've been playing this name for a while on dips. So I got my eye on it. Mtch. What do you guys think? It's not an awful spot, right? Not awful. You think a little more selling? You gotta, I guess you can draw some sort of trend line, high or low type thing. Not yet? That's what I was, I didn't buy it either, Sean. I'm hoping maybe it bangs around at least for a little bit. Maybe they even hit it again, right? That's what I'm kind of hoping for. So even if it does bounce, I missed the bounce, but maybe next trip down they hit it. Next trip down they hit it. That's a lot of these names in the NASDAQ world. Yeah, they sell puts, Frank. They sell puts a lot in this match. A lot. This Fiserv, there's a monster out there, most likely Melvin, right, who's building a massive position in dated calls here, March 100s. This is one of you got to close your eyes and buy it if you have any intentions on buying this thing. It trades with the financials. So as of right now, it's like you're buying Goldman Sachs. Okay? Yeah, and I guess that's why they're going out to March, So you really got to have the patience for this. Honestly, now that we got the punch in the jaw here, I think you're going to have sexier names set up. You know what I mean? That's my opinion anyway. But, you could come in a month from now and this thing catch news, right? Didn't the other one get bought out? What was it? FDC? Remember the other one that we had that caught a ton of flow? FDC? Fiserv bought it, yeah. So you never know, but I don't have the patience for a financial right now. I really don't. Not with so many other names now getting correcting, opens up a whole new universe here. UN, you have some interesting action in this name. Unilever. This is another oldie but goodie. We caught some legitimate buyout rumors in this once upon a time. I don't know how long ago that was. But anyway, you got some put selling and call buying today into some consolidation. All right, so this is non-tech. And again, whether you're buying these now or not, some of the bigger action or the good-looking action with time you want to pay attention to, because like Sean said, they could come back a week from now into weakness again and pound it, and that might end up being your entry. Kraft Heinz, there was some aggressive September buying into red here. I don't know why. Short-term buying. So we'll keep an eye on it going into tomorrow. I didn't play it. I didn't have an interest in playing it, but we'll keep an eye. Maybe something's cooking here. But there was a lot of volume there, spec volume. All right, but it was pretty aggressive, as you can see here, weeklies, all weeklies. There was some monthlies. Cheap. The miners caught some buying again. So you got the silver miner pass, P puff pass. Still looks the same every time you look at it, right? Big move. Starts from going back here. Oop, I just clicked on something else. And now you have this, so far, a healthy consolidation, right? They like to buy it the lower end of the range. They're betting, obviously, that this thing is going to head up this way rather than down this way. Puff, puff, pass. Silver play. The other one, they like to buy dips, WPM. Yep. Similar look. Gold miners as a whole, just, same thing. Every time they look like, they may roll over, they find some buying and support. Kind of is resembling this little breather here, a little lengthier, bigger run to digest. Looks really interesting. I wonder, see, the gold miners are tough. Like anything else, you would look for those short-term sweeps to maybe indicate that they're ready to go, momentum. Miners, usually you have a gap up and go. You walk in, it's up and goodbye. So you kind of got to buy with time if you're interested and sit through some of this. But it's a little later in the process now, so that's good. All right, so puff puff pass and WPM. Pins caught some buying. You don't have much of a pullback in this. That's my only concern. And they're buying it already, but that could be, that could be a good thing. That could be a good thing. It's been in some consolidation there. Not as crazy as some of the other stocks, right? Nowhere near Apple, Tesla, or some of those software names, but healthy move. So it could just be, caught in this consolidation for a bit. That's what I would expect. Some length to this breather. But there was some buying there today and some put selling there today. There's been buying for a while there. Disney, they were flying off the shelves early morning, teetered out later in the afternoon when the overall market got weak. These stocks, don't they feel like they're stuck in mud with these things, right? You look at Disney, looks strong today, and then you pull up a chart and it's not really going anywhere, right? It's not really going anywhere. And that's, for options, that's not what you want for options. You don't want to trade options and stuff that doesn't go anywhere. So that's, it looks good. There's nothing wrong with it. But there's a lot of premium in flames in the interim. So that's kind of the problem in these things. Where's the other round here? Every time I posted a top bet list, there were a few good-looking bets that came in, and I had to add them on. There are a few I still have to add on here. SE. Here's PayPal. Okay. The only thing about PayPal that I'm not concerned about, but I'm iffy about, I don't know how clean this order is. It's an opening bet. It's a nice size sweep, but I couldn't really make out if they were moving even partial position out of a different month. So I would like to see them. And if you guys remember PayPal, when they hit it hard, they rarely hit it once. You know what I mean? They come back and hit it multiple times. So you got a lot of time here, December 190s. If this is a name you're interested in, and I can't blame you for being interested in it, right? These are the new banks. They could come back and hit this thing 3-4 times before it's all said and done. And that's what you would want to see. PayPal was unconscious. Ran into red zone here, got a little too hot, breathing, nice sell-off. Totally normal, totally normal. I don't know, guys, I don't sense the excitement. And I'm not being corny here, but I don't know, I don't sense the excitement in you guys as excited as I am that these things finally cracked. You guys aren't excited about that? Like you guys were content with the melt up and do I buy it? Am I going to get out before pull? Oh, I don't know what to do. You guys were content with that? Oh God, Nick, that melt up, I was pulling my hair out of my head. I was pulling my hair out of my head. So finally, especially those of you who play both sides, because now you got downside momentum in these things. A few of you already killed it in Apple puts and stuff like that. But aside from that, that's what I'm saying. Take it easy, nice and easy. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't have to go crazy and let it come to us. There are people who are stuck in these things who are scrambling and frustrated. Let things set up. Be patient. Be patient. The worst thing that's going to happen is that you miss a setup you were eyeing, but if the bottom's in and we're ready for a new leg higher, there's going to be a gazillion other setups behind it. You know what I mean? So don't worry about missing the opportunity here. Relax. You know, relax. It's a luxury when you're sitting on a nice cash position and you're looking for opportunities here. But this is what we needed to see. Chillax. This is what we needed to see. Otherwise, we were playing musical chairs in these things. And these are all the names we like to play. All right, so PayPal, we'll keep an eye on it. A nice order there with time. EB, they played this once before, and the stock I don't think did much. What is this, EB? Somebody was telling me this is a reopening play. Oh, now I remember it. Tickets. Yeah. Ticketmaster. All right. Gotcha. Caught a nice looking bet here. There was a block of Jan 10 calls, I think it was too. Tickets. I remember this now. I remember this. All right. So this is a rotation play. It was up today, so you may want it to settle down a bit if you're interested in it. And keep an eye, see if they come in again and hit it. But a good looking order there. Uber had some bull flow today. That was up. Actually had a nice little move intraday too, Uber. Off the open. And then settled in with everything else. But they were active today in Uber. They were active. A lot of weeklies. If you notice, I didn't put any weeklies on the top bet list. Because honestly, guys, we don't even know if they're in them anymore. You know what I mean? It's really difficult with these one hit weekly sweeps. You know, that if you day trade them and that's the extent of it. You like it, make sure you like it going off something else besides the flow, because they flip weeklies like they're going out of style in this type of volatility. All right, but Uber had some action today. What's Uber look like on a daily? Let's see. That doesn't look too bad either. Same thing. Doesn't really go anywhere. Does it? Yeah, it was a GM deal. Exactly. It was a GM deal. Speaking of GM, can anybody buy that stock? Because it's catching a lot of action. I can't get myself to buy that. And where's Nick? His Ford too. Ford. Things as dead as I can't. Yeah, I can't for options. I can't get myself playing these things. Tuck away some equity maybe, but GM is a much better mover than Ford. Ford is. Need CPR that stock. And then Baba, you had some size come into Baba today. There was one of them was a block. It followed the sweep. Same thing like the PayPal. I would take a peek at open interest just to make sure nothing big closes. All right. But, I put it in the same category. Like it's something, if I'm interested in something, I'm keeping an eye on, for an entry at, another day. Another day. All right. Unless you're looking to play the snapback squeeze. And you're not going to do that in dated calls, right? PayPal, you're not going to buy December's for the snapback. Doesn't make sense. All right, so Baba quit some big action. We'll take a look at open interest. Yeah, the couple of late buyers that I didn't put on the list, I will add them. SE, not a big pullback there, But you guys know I'm an SE fan. So I played a little. I'll look to add a little bit more. I have room to add. I'm not going crazy. To play a snapback. That's all I'm doing there. All right, but not much of a pullback. Not much of a pullback yet. This is at an interesting spot, SE. So I'm playing for like something like that. And then maybe it has one more. That's going to be the interesting thing here. Do we have that one? Which one, Ryan? 500,000 weeklies tied to stock. What stock are you talking about now? Oh, KSS. No, what was that? That was a weekly sweep. Well, it was tied to stock? I didn't see it tied to stock. I don't know what the hell that was about. Hold on. KSS. No, yeah, here. Yeah, that was a late sweep too. That was a weird one. That's big size for weeklies. What the hell? Hold on. Look at this. What do you mean Amazon related? Somebody else mentioned that. They have a deal with Amazon? A new deal? Or are you saying... Ah, yeah, that's a big order, for a spec bet like that. That's a big order. So no matter what, we want to keep an eye on it tomorrow. Maybe they get aggressive right off the open, and if you got a weak open, that's something you want to be involved in. The spot is decent, even though there's a niner. That's a Fugazi niner. Look at that. Give me a break. But if you get a flattish open tomorrow and we see some KSS multiple sweeps, it might be worth a shot. Might be worth a shot. Square quarter bet. So they did some buying today. Could be just the start, but they did some buying today. All right, we're going to get more answers each and every day that goes by here. Eventually, we're going to find a bottom, okay, on these things. And we're going to rally, and we're going to probably hang around here. And the question is going to be, was that enough and we grind higher from there? Or is it the 1, 2, Teslas break them, whatever it is, and that will probably be it. That would probably be it. If a lot of the other sentiment stuff was, if everybody was in the pool and we were getting really close to it, then you'd be worried that it could be the start of something bigger. But as from what I'm seeing right now, that's what it looks like to me, at worst. At worst, one of these violent, quick corrections, bink, 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 and over with. Or it could be just over with here and not do that third leg lower if this is enough here. But what worries me is a lot of crowd in here, a lot of crowd. It's got to be enough to shake some feathers. Work down. Well, work had earnings, right? Oh, what about ZS? Did they report yet? That's the one I'm curious about. This thing's a stud. I want to see if they whack this thing or not. Look at that move. Some of these rallies, they're just so damn steep, So steep. Sold it at the high, nice. See, like Tesla, same thing. There's going to be an overshoot. Probably tomorrow. If tomorrow you get some follow through weakness, you'll see a reversal and bounce. That's my prediction. How do you like that? Snapback bounce, not new highs bounce. Because look, they did a lot of damage here. But look at these rips, man. Look at this. This is ridiculous. And it just wiped it all out, right? That's all that happened. It wiped it all out. This stupidity of a move. and you got gamma and all that other stuff out there. So a couple things that I didn't get to share with you guys yesterday. The gamma gang is already short in volatility, buying puts. All right, that doesn't mean it's going to implode tomorrow, but they're shorting volatility. All right, we saw VXX put sweepers already today. That's a good sign. That's the first sign. Forget all the rest of the first sign that we're possibly close to a sentiment squeeze. The VXX put sweeps. Weeklies, and there was some action before it. Here, monthlies. AMAT was a block. I think it canceled and corrected, if I'm not mistaken. I think AMAT was a block, Jordan. Let me see. Yeah, AMAT was a block. Maybe stock replacement. All right. And we got, listen, the other thing too is for the sentiment squeezes, there's no reason to get too cute, right? If these things are likely to be heavily correlated to the NASDAQ and all. You know, you get a NASDAQ bounce, right? SE, Apple, I'm sure they all bounce. Again, those sentiment squeezes is a matter of getting lucky which one you're in, which one bounces harder. You know, but the other stuff, I'm more excited about the other stuff. Again, position trading again. You know, I've been ignoring that for a while. Too long, it feels like. I just like even handicapping it, you know, just looking out for it. I enjoy. And just the notion just to feel like that has opened up again, I'm happy with. You buy ES into tomorrow, I lose. What the hell does that mean, John? You're gonna buy ES tomorrow, you saying? Oh. We're getting close, Sean. I just wanted to see enough of a beating in things, you know, because initially it was more of time than anything else. You know what I'm saying? It was more of time that things would need to breathe a little bit. But I just, now that we've seen a decent haircut, I'm definitely a lot more interested in it. And like you hit the nail on the head. Like it's a little too early right now, but if we see PayPal buyer come back into weakness and bang December's again, or a match sweepers come in and sell puts, or bang some calls again into weakness, that's what's going to get me. That's what's going to get me in. You know, so that's why, you know, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. You know, I'm going to play the sentiment squeeze nice and easy. And as far as the positions, let them force me into stuff at this point. You know, let them force me into stuff. But it's a big change from where we were a week ago. A week ago, you know, they couldn't even force me in. You know, we were talking about it, remember? We had to pass on everything. Every good looking order with time, it was like a waste. So now it's not wasted. It's not wasted. You know, maybe just a little too early right now, but it's not wasted. And again, I'm not even talking about more downside. It just may be more time of digestion that needs to go on. You know, because time lapses. If you find, let's say, a bottom tomorrow, you bounce, you get that sentiment squeeze. sometimes you hang around here, right? You do a whole lot of nothing, and then you get that like retest or something. Takes a little bit of time to materialize, and then you get some nice buildup and flow, though. Kind of like, let me see, kind of like this a little bit. See this? You get the wash, sentiment squeeze. Another test, bounce. Another test. You know what I mean? Obviously, it doesn't, I'm not saying it has to play exactly like that, but you get that sort of thing. So all in all, you got, some time here from where it started. And, you have a nice watch list of names that they've been hitting in here. So that's my game plan. That's why I mentioned yesterday, if I can't be shocked by anything anymore in this market ever again, nothing would shock me. But a rally to, like, if we just turned around and rallied to new highs, I that's why I said to myself, I'm still just going to stay tactical, even with this wash, I'm still just going to stay tactical. Like, I want to see some healthy digestion here. Yeah, Space had some weird names that would flow out there today. Space, right? Beyond was strong, had some bull flow. Every time I look at this Beyond, it looks decent, and it never moves. This used to be a mover. What happened to this thing? Look at this. I mean, it is a wide range, but this thing's been glued over here. Glued. Workhorse. Yeah, that had a nice day. I know a couple of you were in it. Are you guys still in it, or? Had a nice day, this Workhorse, especially on a down day like this. Yeah, Starbucks news. I saw that. Yeah, that's another thing, Sean. Maybe we see some underbelly action, right? We like that. Maybe they hit up some new names. That's the other beautiful thing that comes out of these little corrective phases. New names that we aren't too familiar with or haven't really played in the past. It could be new tech names, obviously, Yeah, they end up being, new leaders. This ZI, I had Jazz in this ZI. It's going to hell in a handbasket, but maybe ZI. You get these, that's why you got to keep your eyes peeled. You get these names like ENPH, on net, I remember, at a past little corrections, and, you don't think much of them. But then when the market recoups, they become really nice winners. So right now you build a watch list. Sounds corny, but that's the best thing to do. Play for sentiment squeezes, build a watch list, and take it day to day here. Which one? BIGC? I think BIGC, I think we saw a put sweep last week. I think. But other than that, we haven't seen anything. This is Wall Street Jesus, not saying Lucci, but I saw a little bit of action in mRNA Jan calls today. But yeah, this thing looks like dog poop. Paging Dr. Fauci. There has been put buying prior to that. There was some put sweepers there, but there were a couple put sweepers all over the place. LRCX, the semis are just beat up right now. Nice correction in these things, but they're just beat up with this China thing. But again, they hammer it. I'm sure semis will be a part of it. Nice correction in the semis. Yeah, TSM always finds a way to hold up nicely. Look at it. It really does. And look at MRVL. This thing doesn't come down. Corvo up in the after hours. Why? News? Right back down to, raised guidance. RH. Jesus, that thing hardly even sold. What about W? That came in a little bit. Like, look at these runs. Oh my God. If you ever wanted to own W ever again in your life, this has to happen. How you're gonna buy up here? How do you buy it up there? This is the inevitable. It's coming. It's just a matter of when. These things just got a little too crazy. They got a little too crazy. OSTK, that was another nut job. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at it. I never really looked at a chart, OSTK, recently. I just seen it going up every day. Look at that. All through. Probably goes right back to Pink Panther. $250. Oh, Tim. That's some move. What are you looking at, Tim? Anything just yet or nothing really? You are any? CWH, SEMA, that's one of the names I wanted to come in a little bit, for Christ's sake. And had a bump up. But yeah, this is a name on weakness. Insider buying, put selling, call sweepers, and this is a healthy digestion off a big move here. But you got to buy weakness. I wouldn't chase green. Yeah, Marcus Lemonis is buying stock, right? The insider buying. So this is a name to eye off weakness, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Just, you got to be careful chasing green because the market could weigh on it. But it does look good. And, it's been consolidating before we even got to this point. So what did Tim say? Big spot on the indices, Tim is saying. Yeah, we should see a sentiment squeeze coming up. Otherwise, maybe there's something bigger at play here. Hold on, I want to see. Move this thing out of my way a second here. Oh, right there. Look at that. There's the 50-day, right? But even if we break it, sometimes it's even better, no? Why not? You get more fear in there. What happens? It breaks the 50-day. Satan comes out from hell and it's game over? Come on now. No. If it was that easy. Look, this didn't break the 50-day here. Look at that. Gap down through the 50-day. That was the biggest buying opportunity of your life right there. That was the last pullback we were looking at earlier. Look at that. Here. Oh, this, yeah. This was the panic attack the last time, right? But the only difference here, you had all that VIX put selling. Put buying mania. Remember, they were buying puts on VIX like they were going out of style. So that added into the thing here. This is mostly a NASDAQ driven event here. I guess it could spill over, you know? It could definitely spill over. But this is a NASDAQ thing. God forbid we get all sentiment line up out of this correction somehow. I mean, if there's a God. Can you imagine? Anyway, I'm excited. I'm not trying, if you're losing money, I'm sorry. I don't like to be excited if you're losing money out there, but losing a little bit of money in this, if it's only a little bit of money, is a good thing if you have bullets to fire, because when this comes to an end, that's where all the money's made on the long side. That's where the best risk reward is on the long side. It's when you get up here where you still want to participate, but you got to be careful. Right? You got to be careful. And that's the weird thing about this. This shouldn't surprise anybody. Anybody. Am I lying? Should it surprise anybody? If anything, it should surprise people that it didn't come sooner. That's what I was surprised by. Perma bull. I like to be called a perma bull anyway. I like to be a perma bull. Is your 50-day, I just typed in MA, David. Why, is it wrong? Oh, it looks different. I don't know. So what do you guys look at? The MA or the EMA? Ah, really? Interesting. Yeah, I'm not a moving average guy, but I'll slap it on there. Look, you guys are talking, look, well, MA, EMA, SMA. What I was going to say. Oh, the other thing, what we didn't talk about? What month is it? All kidding aside, what month is it? Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? September, isn't it amazing? I told you guys, seriously, when I had to manage client money and I couldn't pull the plug like you're trading your own account. That's the beauty of trading your own account, right? You could get out, press some buttons and you're out. You don't have to answer questions to anybody. When I had clients, August, right? When I got to mid-August, my job, I used to bang my head to make sure I remember it, was to make sure I can get into as much cash as possible before the end of August. Every year, every single year. Sometimes I miss some upside. It would be the rare occasion. But every single year, I'd make it my business to get clients into cash through September, and then mid-October is when I'd force myself, if there wasn't anything sooner, to put money to work. The end of October is a bear killer, the end of October, if this lasts that long. Bear killer. But September, I don't know what it is about September. Market gods don't like it. Market gods do not like the month of September. Yeah, maybe rebalancing. People have a bunch of different ES getting hit now. You said, people have a different way of explaining it. But all I know is the worst markets I've ever been a part of since I got into the game in 97 were September. AstraZeneca, whoa, what tree pay? Tree just posted AstraZeneca vaccine study put on hold. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Meanwhile, that might be bullish for tech and software tomorrow. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. No? Hide in software names. AZN. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've been getting hit most of the stay-at-homes. Peloton hasn't got hit yet because they report. But after the report, we'll see what happens. Oh, that's another name. We didn't mention it because he didn't catch anything today. But D-Dog, there's been some buying, right? Some nice action in D-Dog. And this is nice consolidated. This is nice here. See this? Really nice. Really nice. This is kind of the time I'm talking about, Sean, you know? Just more time than anything else. Yeah, I'm going to bounce too. All right, guys? Yeah, I like it. Dogs for the win, Tim. Guys, always a pleasure chit-chatting with you. Stay patient, right? Get excited. Got the pull out of the way. It's a matter of time now. But let it come to us. Keep our eyes open. All right? Same to you. Have a good night. Good luck the rest of the week.